Hello, everybody who is in the room. I'm going to activate your, I don't know where you are. Wait a minute. All right, I'm trying to give you guys access to your microphones and cameras. There's only 4 of us here right now, so if you want to come say hi, that's great. You don't have to by any stretch. You can say good morning if you like. Hello from Petawawa. Hello. Nice. How are things in Petawawa these days? Not bad? Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, I kind of don't mind when it's cloudy because I feel less bad being stuck inside doing, work. Oh, hang on. I need to go all the way to the beginning of my presentation and I don't know why that did that. Oh, I guess I just have to click all the way through. Sorry, guys. You're going to see all the secrets. Last week was a scorcher. Yeah, I heard that it was really hot last week. We had a virtual health promotion happy hour, and people were in Ottawa or in the Ontario, Ottawa area were saying that it had been really hot. So it's probably a nice reprieve from that. The upside is you guys have so much water accessible to, like rivers and lakes and nice stuff. Like landlocked Alberta, unless you're near Cold Lake or hello from Kingston. Hello. Yeah, the water is nice. All you cottage people, there was a fun, one of the polls was, what do you refer to that little summer house that you have? Is it a cottage, a cabin, or whatever? So whatever, cottage country, right? Like is a thing. Not so much here. We're maybe like tent country. Yeah, that's true. But you're hardcore. If you're the Rachel that I think you are, then you're totally hardcore. If you're a different Rachel, then you also have hardcore, like totally hardcore. Deep River. Kate, remind me of where Deep River is. That's somewhere in Ontario too, right? I want to say yes. My geography is terrible. 20 minutes north of Bed. Oh, okay. Yeah, yes. Right. I think that when we were there for training last year, that was when like the bridges had been washed out because of all the stuff. And I think that the route, the bridge to Deep River might have been, yeah. That was crazy. That was crazy. Just think of that, like think about the stuff that was happening last year and everybody was like, oh my gosh, how are you going to manage this? And now here we are in a completely other kind of cut off, but not because of something physical like a bridge. It's kind of random. All right, we got 1 minute till go time and there's like a whole bunch of people not showing up, so I don't know what's up with that. And of course I have other people work texting me, go away, stop, I don't want to talk to you. And he needs to know, and I need to just pause for a minute. So chat amongst yourselves, literally in the chat, and I will be right back. Okay, it looks exactly the same. All right, I don't know. He supposedly rewrote something and it looks exactly the same to me, so he's just going to have to go with it. And this is what we're talking about. So when you read the title, so it's 10 o'clock. So anybody who's still waiting, good morning from Moose Jaw, sunny and really windy. Yeah, us too. I hate this wind. The wind freaks me out. It keeps me up at night. when you say the name of this presentation, you're actually supposed to say it. Nailed it, right? Like, so when you're, hello, Anne, hence my choice of the macarons, which are supposed to look like the ones on the right. But if you make them yourselves, may end up looking like the ones on the left. And you know what? Your dog is going bonkers. Perfect. Morning from Winnipeg. Yay. Hello. Now, I don't know if everybody wants to have their, like I was trying to give people access, and I think I might have accidentally given you and then taken it away because I sometimes do that because I'm sort of bad when it comes to this sort of thing. So I'm giving you all webcam microphone access, unless you're on a cell phone or a tablet, in which case I don't have that option. But if you can all just stay muted, that would be great. For those of you who have been on these things in the past, you know the drill. But when we open up the chat, we can actually have a chat. So if you want to talk about your stuff live, then by all means. We'll go through all the disclaimer stuff anyway. So, okay, 10:02. Well, I think we'll start just for the sake of everybody who is here. And I would like to welcome you. And I realized that the webinar that Heather and I did yesterday, we forgot to introduce ourselves. So my name is Carissa McKay. I'm one of the health promotion specialists in Edmonton. I am in Edmonton, where it is sunny and windy. My dog is currently not going bonkers because I've closed the little blinds to the back of me, and that's more for the sunlight streaming through, even though the sun is kind of there right now, but it keeps her from seeing the squirrels and the bunnies that are in the green space across the street. So she still might lose her mind at some point. So I apologize for that. One of the crazy things that's happened in terms of the stress of learning new things in the pandemic are that even though you want your kid to go to bed on time, it's really hard to instigate that rule when there's no real reason for them to get up in the morning. And she's already a bad sleeper to begin with. She's 11 and she gave up naps at 18 months. So hence this look that I have going, but she's still sleeping. So at some point you might see a sleepyhead kind of walk by into the kitchen, which is immediately to my right. So I apologize for that as well. So that's my reality. And I think that we're all kind of living that. And that's kind of what this topic is about today. So it's not the standard stress management that any of you may have participated in if you've joined your crews in your respective bases and wings. It's all still relevant to the stress management that you will have taken before, but we're just spinning it a little bit because there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on that hasn't necessarily been considered from that point of view before. So, nailed it. It is a whole new world out there. And we're all stuck in isolation or something as close to it as you can with still being able to get stuff done. And we're all trying to make it work. And guess what? It's brand new for everybody. We're all learning. We're all figuring stuff out. Now there's people figuring out how to go back. There's those of us who are figuring out how to keep this going because it sounds like we might be here for longer than we had originally thought. And it's going to be a bumpy ride. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I've broken it into parts 1 and 2 just because I didn't want each session to be too long because I know that our concentration and ability to focus is starting to be affected. So yeah, we're going to break it down. So before we do anything, we need to do the standard sharing of the disclaimer, which is that the stories that you're about to hear, the presentation that you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. Any reproduction or transmission of the slides is strictly forbidden. While there isn't anything particularly sensitive in this topic, in this webinar, just be aware that little ears might be around, so parental discretion is recommended. If you do choose to share, and it's completely up to you, please also remember that the Vegas rule applies. People's stories are theirs alone to tell, and while we encourage you to share all of the learnings, anything that people do share needs to stay here within the webinar. And finally, the webinar is being recorded for posterity, if that's what you want to look at it as, and it will be available for viewing on CAF Connection. Usually it's up within the week-ish. So if there's people that weren't able to go and you thought it was beneficial, you might want to ask them if they were interested in checking it out. So even though we encourage active participation, you don't have to do anything other than just simply follow along and not use chat video or microphone if that is your preference. and our next standard slide. And I'm doing all of the polls by myself today. So if you can tell me and others who you are in terms of your CAF affiliation, that would be fab. Awesome. I'm always really thrilled to see that we've got serving members, because that is obviously our primary target, but I love having everybody else and family members. We don't often get those in Edmonton for some reason, so welcome. And veterans, of course, always excited to have you with us as well. Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. So we are in what I would like to call an experience of the first time blues. This is the first time that we've ever had to live through a pandemic. Unless you were around during the Spanish flu of 1918, this is brand new. And even though we heard the rumblings, we saw what was going on in China and Italy and Spain and everywhere else, we didn't really have that much time to prep for it, right? It was like, for us, literally about a day. And then we suddenly, with that day's notice, had to figure out how to work from home and parent full-time while teaching our kids homeschooling, home virtual learning. So there's a lot going on. And there's this great video. Now, how many people have seen, hang on, I gotta turn my chat back on. How many people have seen the little video of the retriever or Labrador puppy singing The Pets Will Thrive? Has everybody seen that? Has anybody seen that? Just give me a sense, because it's a minute long. No? Okay, we got one no. Perfect. We are going to show this awesome little video. Okay, I got to find how I can share this. Okay, hang on. Oops, wait. Here it is. Here it's coming.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified. I didn't get why Mom was suddenly always inside. My daily naps were now cut short and sneaking on your bed was done. There's no more barking at the mailman, what's a dog supposed to do for fun? But now you're home, and it's pretty fun. We played fetch for 7 hours in the backyard in the sun. I get belly rubs and treats, I never have to hold my pee. I don't know what a pandemic is, but it sure is good for me. So let's go, let's walk out the door. We've already had 4 walks a day, and we'll probably do 3 more. In a time of stress, you can rely on man's best friend. And while I hope the world recovers, I'll be sad when this all ends. On the bright side, the pets will thrive. Every day that you are here with me is the best day of my life. If you stay, I won't eat all your shoes. I'll even stop the indoor poos. The pets will thrive. The pets will thrive. Hey, hey.
So that is me with my super lame sense of humor, but it's kind of a funny perspective, right? And so often what we need is, I will try, Lisa, I will try. I usually put I think I have your email on the magic thing in the background, so I will try to remember that. Otherwise, just literally Google The Pets Will Thrive YouTube, and you will find it, because that's what I did last night. So yeah, my pet, as you know, is already a little bit cuckoo. She's being quiet right now. I don't know, I think she's feeling ripped off, personally. I think she's feeling ripped off because even though we're home all day, all she hears is clickety-clacking on tablets and computers, and us talking to people that aren't even in the room. And while we do walk her 3 times a day and she gets lots of hugs and loves, I don't know that she's fully experiencing life the same way as this little sweetheart on the screen here. So nobody hopped on their first bike and said, Mom, Dad, I don't need no stinking training wheels. I've got a marathon or a triathlon to complete. Right? That didn't happen. It took a while to get used to riding our bike with both training wheels firmly on the ground. Then the wheels were raised up a little bit, and we had to get used to that wobble from side to side. And some of us probably rode with a bit of a pronounced lean for a bit. And then we figured that out. And then the training wheels were raised up a little bit more, and we still needed them maybe to navigate those corners. But pretty soon we were balancing and floating between them. And the last flick of the wrench, the training wheels were gone, and we were literally off to the races. But even then, there were crashes and scraped knees and bruises as chests smashed into handlebars. But with time and practice, that too became a thing of the past. And soon the idea of maybe training for a triathlon or ever doing a Tour de France or something that's maybe local to your area might have entered your mind. But it didn't happen in one day, didn't even happen in 1 week. In fact, most avid cyclists, even all of those years later, probably aren't necessarily all thinking, oh yeah, Tour de France, I totally want to do that, even though they're extremely competent on their bike. So we need to recognize that we're in the exact same situation. It takes time, right? We didn't have even that long to be on training wheels. And yet we have this belief that we need to be just killing it in this day. And we need to go from seamlessly switching from working from home to being a YouTube sensation and cranking out great videos and making podcasts and just being a teleworking sensation. And if that's not happening, that's okay. It's not supposed to happen that way. Are there folks for whom this possibly came more easily? I would argue that anybody who graduated within the last 5 years from university, or if you work in IT, or if someone in your home was already teleworking, if they were maybe doing independent sort of journalism or financial planning or something that you didn't necessarily need to be in an office space, maybe they had a bit of a head start. And that's great. If you were already familiar with the online learning environment, making your kids be set up on their virtual school was probably not a big deal. But for those of us who this was all new for, this is brand new. It's a process, and we need to recognize that. The fact that we are getting up most days and maybe putting on real pants is an accomplishment for a lot of people. And when I say real pants, I don't mean sweatpants, jogging pants, yoga pants. I mean real pants, like get up and be, going to work pants, right? Today, I put on a dress. This is the first day that I've worn a dress in 11 weeks. I probably will change out of my dress when I'm done, but still, right? So that's already a big achievement. If you've logged on and you've checked emails and you've looked at the CMFWS update and you looked to see if there was a note from General Vance, you've already accomplished something. But what if your job doesn't lend itself to teleworking? What if you're a mechanic? What if you're a dentist? What if you are somebody who's got a hands-on kind of, what if you're in the combat arms? You can't just do that online. You can knock off all your DLN learning requirements. You can do your maybe some online modules, but it's not the same thing. So the stress that is experienced in having that as your new reality is sometimes an even bigger source of stress, because now how do you feel like you've got anything accomplished over the course of the day? Where is your sense of satisfaction coming from? So what we all need to do is cut ourselves a little bit of slack, even 11 weeks in, even as we start making forays into going back to whatever this new workplace life is going to look like. We still need to cut ourselves and all of the people making decisions a little bit of slack. The world we left is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's still out there in terms of buildings and trees and people, but how we interact, how we do business, how we have any kind of ongoing relations are different. And that's the reality. And we are going to have to move forward knowing that, which means that not only did we have to learn new stuff in the middle of the pandemic while we were in the pandemic, like proper, I mean, it's still happening, but you know what I mean? Like we're moving kind of in a different direction now. There's going to be more adjustments. There's going to be more learning. We're going to have to figure out PPE. We're going to have to make sure those screens are in place. We're going to have to put circles on the ground so people know where to stand. So there's more new things to learn, more adaptation that's coming. And that's going to continue to challenge us, and in some cases, sometimes possibly even overwhelm us. And that's still okay too. So what is your new normal? How has your day changed? If anybody wants to just share in the chat or pop open your microphone if you want, how do you fill your hours? What are you doing differently? Change, place the music. Oh, there's a message, 2 new messages. Excellent, excellent. Very short commute now. I know, I love it. I do not miss being in the car. No alarm. Yes, me too. Well, that's not true. I used to get up at 5:45, and now I get up at 7, which doesn't seem like huge, but yeah, I love getting up at 7 and doing my workout. Volunteering, awesome. Being able to get out into the community and help out. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, Kelly. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So in terms of that, here's a quick little poll. How do you feel you are doing? Oops, come on. Why? Where's my poll? how are you doing? Where's my, where's my other poll? No. Oh, there it is. Whew. So are you knocking it out of the park? Still figuring it out? Or lost and confused in the maze? Oh, people are knocking it out of the park? That's awesome. Okay, yeah. Nobody's in the maze. I love it. That's great. Originally, I had made the lost and confused the OMG WTF am I doing? But then I thought, it's going to be a poll. Maybe I should make it a little more politically correct. Yeah, where some of us are going to be like, this is amazing. I can totally do this. And I can see myself doing this kind of into perpetuity. And that's fabulous. That's amazing. I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. But on the other hand, it's good to know that there's a lot of us that are still kind of just figuring it out. And that's perfectly okay. We need to be okay with that. We need to know that that's 100% all right. Part of the challenge, and it would be interesting to find out, and I don't know, maybe we have time at the end, depending on how chatty I am, we can maybe explore that a little bit more. But I'm wondering how much of that is related to this notion that we're going to talk about in the next slide, which is isolation and confinement. Lawrence Palinkas is a PhD and professor of social policy and health, as well as anthropology at the University of Southern California. And he says that face-to-face contact is important to prevent symptoms of depression and anxiety, particularly in people who are already prone to that. So with those of you who are knocking it out of the park, I'm wondering if that's because you are still able to find those pieces that allow you to have that face-to-face contact, even if it's 6 feet apart, but because that is huge in terms of our feeling success and being able to move forward. So even if the isolation and confinement is there for us, it doesn't mean that we're all going to walk out of this clinically depressed or anxious. It does mean that the unknowns of how long this isolation is going to take place, when it might be reimposed if we start to slip, and how we're going to continue to manage to be away from the people that we literally took for granted that we're always going to be there. You may not have wanted necessarily to see every single person that you worked with in your unit or in your company or in your office space, but just knowing that they were there, there's a certain comfort knowing that those people are there and that those same little things that rub you the wrong way or whatever are all going to happen, and you're going to have to navigate and do that social dance that we call life every day. And while there's some relief in not having to do that, there's a piece around just recognizing that our coworkers are different than they were before, right? So it's okay. So Julianne Holt-Lunstad is a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Brigham Young University, and she has looked at the effects of isolation on health, and it's a little bit alarming. So she didn't find that there was one particular cause of death more prevalent than another as a result of it. The risk of every single cause of death, including heart disease, cancer, stroke, renal failure, they all increased from isolation. And one of the reasons people suffer in social isolation is because contact with people, personal relationships, social support are things that help us to cope with stress. And so in this new reality, that's not necessarily as accessible. Dhruv Kular is a physician and researcher at Weill Cornell University in New York, and he said that short periods of isolation can cause increased anxiety and depression within days. Days. We're 11 weeks in. So for people who had to do the forced isolation, like fully quarantined isolation for the however long because of the role that you have for work, that puts you at a level of risk that those of us who still can kind of interact and do stuff didn't necessarily have to face. We have evolved to be social creatures. For all of the history of humanity, we have been in family structures and in groups. And we've evolved to crave that connection and rely on that interaction with other human beings. So when we don't have that, it's really difficult. There's this huge void that needs to be filled as part of our humanity. And it's kind of this thing that's hardwired into us. And when we need to forcibly enforce this separation, it's difficult. So what the latest research is showing is that we have literally, actually this happened probably 6 weeks ago, we have reached the end of the line in terms of our brains, specifically the prefrontal cortex. So that's the part of our brain that separates us from apes. that is kind of at the point where it's no longer able to keep up with the necessity of isolation and everything that goes along with that. And it is screaming at us, it's time, I'm done. Okay, time to go back to normal now, time for tea and biscuits. That's what it's saying. But at the same time, our brain is also telling us we need to hang on, we need to keep doing this. We need to be able to fight that innate drive to socialize so that we can continue to keep us safe. Fortunately, the technology allows us to connect in a different kind of a way, even though it's not necessarily from the perspective of reaching out and hugging or shaking hands or that kind of physical contact, right? We can still connect with our friends and family over Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp or FaceTime. And that connection is really important, even if it's missing that physical aspect, because it helps us to stick with the behaviors that we need to do to keep us safe and from reverting to the things that are going to, make the curve go crazy again. So Dr. Kolar says what we need to also recognize is that we have to keep an eye out for the people that maybe aren't as tech savvy, who maybe don't have access to those kinds of things, or who we know to be more at risk for isolation, and reach out to them. So grandma and grandpa might not know anything about Skype, although some of them are super tech savvy. But if they don't, picking up the phone and talking to them, that to them is already like, yeah, I am connecting to somebody and they've reached out to me and I'm hearing their voice and we're talking and laughing and sharing. And that's huge. And the positive flip side to that is not only is it huge for them in terms of them feeling connected, it's huge for us because we are creating that positive interaction, which is giving us that dopamine rush. So we need to stay the course. We need to maintain the social distancing. We need to avoid the big groups of people that we see. If you're going to demonstrate, do it virtually. Make sure that your social distancing is still there, because this prefrontal cortex that got us to this place, even though it's tired of living in this new reality, we still need to just carry on. We need to persevere. The upside to that is that the resilience that you had going into this is what is going to keep you strong as we continue to navigate our way through. So that's why that resilience that we talk about in our regular stress management workshops is so important. Because the fact is, we have evolved as a species because we are better together. So having to learn how to do okay apart is a learning that is as diametrically opposed from normal as you can get. Our brains believe that the need to be with people is as essential as the need for food and water. This is Dr. Palinkas. And so when that doesn't happen, we're going to struggle. And that dopamine rush that I just said, that comes from those successful human interactions. So when you see somebody that you haven't met in a long time and you wave at them wildly across the street and you have an exchange, there's this rush of a dopamine that's coming into our brain saying, yeah, this is awesome. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm a social creature. Even the introverts among us need to have that once in a while. So without it, and I don't know, see if you can relate to some of these things, because I certainly feel like this is happening to me. Without that psychological stimulation to maintain optimal cognitive functioning, we may start to suffer from short-term memory loss. You can ask my daughter how many times I said to myself, why did I just go to the basement? Like, I'm not that old. Old timers isn't creeping up on me just yet. But it's there. So short-term memory loss. Where am I? Difficulty exercising executive functioning. So executive functioning are the set of skills that include working memory. So remembering all of the steps and things that you need to do to get through your day. I have a big orange board that I made to keep me organized. Unfortunately, it's in my other workspace, which is in my husband's office because he works alone. And now I don't have my organization and it's killing me. Flexible thinking. Does anybody feel like they're less flexible? Like, we're supposed to be able to just kind of roll with things, but as this kind of goes on and on, we're starting to become less flexible. Is anybody feeling that? Or the last one, self-control. No? Okay, kind of. Yeah, it depends on the situation, for sure. Yeah, the self-control. I feel like having to not deal with traffic and not have to deal with the sort of annoying people at work, because there's a lot of them. We share a big building. That part is good, but I think that sometimes, and I think my daughter could probably attest to that, is that I probably freak out a little bit more quickly now than maybe I used to, because we're so like in each other's spaces. I feel like I'm doing not bad with my husband, but he goes to work still every day, so I don't see him as much, which is good. But yeah, so when that executive function starts to slide, it can make it hard to focus. It makes it hard to follow directions. I don't know how many emails I have sent back and forth to one of our health promotion people because I could not get it together with this whole Demio thing. And this is not my first rodeo, right? Like I've done this before, but I was just messing it up. So those directions, I kept screwing it up, put the wrong thing in the spreadsheet, like it was bad. Handling emotions, among other things. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that there's some of you in the room that are feeling my pain because it's happening. The flip side to that is that depending on kind of your situation, if you're co-isolating with family or roommates, or you're in shacks and you see the same people in like really kind of confined spaces, tensions can build because now we're stuck with those people 24/7. And that's not normal either, right? Weeks and weeks in a smallish space with the same people to talk to, the same interactions, the same kind of little things that get on each other's nerves. That's not normal. NASA assesses its astronauts and chooses them based on compatibility for a reason, because they don't want tensions to mount when they're living in the space station or when they're stuck in the little cabin of their rocket ship or the shuttle or however they're getting up there these days, right? So that compatibility factor is huge. And we don't think about that necessarily as well. The other more concerning, more serious aspect to consider is the notion that there are going to be people who are at risk because of family violence issues. So if you know that that is something that people that you know might be dealing with, again, a really important reason to reach out and make sure that they're doing okay and they have access to those resources. And again, another opportunity for you to have that connection in a way that is not only meaningful and potentially a safety net for them, but also really good for you to feel like you're still doing that social herd kind of stuff that we need to do. So the way forward, how are we going to deal with all of this? The first step is acknowledgement. While we have had a chance to adjust over the last couple of weeks, the adjustment has probably happened in a number of different ways, and most of us have managed to a certain extent. It's still relatively new, right? 11 weeks to learn something that we had a very short time to prepare for in terms of the IT equipment that was required, the mental energy adjust to our new coworkers, these forays into the world to gather supplies, AKA grocery shopping. I saw that someone had mentioned that grocery shopping was their social connection. But to me, grocery shopping in a time of doomsday preppers is stressful. I used to really like getting groceries and now I hate it. I don't like the arrows, and I don't like not being able to go to Bulk Barn, and I don't like just the distance and the tension. Like I feel that there's this tension in the grocery store. So that is, and the shelves are half stocked. Yeah, right. Like it's weird to be able to, or to walk into the store and not get your flour or your yeast or your lentils or your beans or your staples, and those are the things that we would rely on, right? So it's all weird and it shouldn't feel normal. And growth for some people is probably a wild understatement. And to me, it is still feeling a little bit gross. Even just when you're walking down the street and you see people and then the need to walk to the other side of the street, it's so opposed to our human desire for connectedness, and especially in a neighborhood where you know most people, right? Like there's just, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. The other thing that we need to do is, like our future athletes, our triathletes, or our Tour de Francers out there, is have that period of adjustment. You know, we are not going to be good at this, and we still may not be, except for those 3 rock stars out there, we still may not be good at this for a while, and that's okay. When you moved into your first place, you probably relished the freedom, but you probably didn't master the art of being all on your own at first. Right? Yeah, the rural communities, absolutely. Although, you know what? I live in Edmonton and our groceries are pathetic sometimes too. So yeah, it's a hard thing. So when you were living on your own, did anybody end up with a couple of loads of pink whites? Right? That miscellaneous red item that got into your whites? Socks that stuck to the floor because, oh, I should probably clean those at some point? or sheets that never got folded. They were literally peeled off and then put back on. But you know what? We've all adjusted. We've all now hopefully given way to a home where you no longer need a hazmat suit. There are some people who still, I feel a little when I go and visit them, but you know what? That's okay. I'm not judging. It takes time, and we need to be patient with ourselves first and foremost, and we still do need to cut other people some slack as well. The really great thing in all of this is that all this new learning and growing and developing new skills is that we've probably delayed the onset of Alzheimer's by a year or two. And I say that partly tongue in cheek, but partly very seriously, because all of this mental stimulation, figuring out virtual teaching platforms, file retrieval, virtual meetings, all of it, it's creating a ton of new neural connections that are going to hold us in good stead and help us to continue to move through this as we move forward. So there is an upside. The good news is that we are going to be okay, right? The good news is there is an upside. In the next session, we're going to look at some really concrete things that we can do to help to get through this. But for right now, the take-home message is that having made it this far and seeing that there may be some return to business, though certainly not business as usual, we have increased our resilience. Right? So we had resilience going in, and it has increased as a result. We have increased those neural connections. We are able to do things that we maybe didn't think that we could do before. And according to Dr. John Leach, he's a PhD and survival psychologist. Like, these people have the coolest jobs. Like, honestly, I want to, when I come back in a new life, I want to do some of these really cool things. But he says that most of us are going to emerge from this experience with a heightened sense of self-confidence, which is great, and accomplishment. We're going to be able to look back on this and say, we did this, right? We did this together. We did this as our co-isolating units. We did this. We're going to feel gratitude for the support that we received from other people, and people are going to feel grateful for the support that they received from us, because we're in similar circumstances. I'm sure most of you have seen those little, it's not a meme because a meme is kind of, you know, kidding and jokey, but those little sayings or stories that are talking about we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat, right? The circumstances that we find ourselves in are very different depending on where we're at, but we are similar in terms that we're there. The reason that we're there is the same. And the feeling that we're going to come out of this with, hopefully, is if I can handle this, I can handle anything. And that might be a bit of a stretch, but I think that for those of us who aren't putting ourselves and our lives on the line because of our jobs, I think that there is certainly some truth to that statement. I will try to get that information to you, Rachel. I have it somewhere in my piles, many piles. So I have a handout, which I'm going to upload for you. If you want it, it is optional. You do not need to take it if you don't want it, but if you would like to have a look, it's basically just looking at those 3 keys to getting through the new stuff and seeing how you're doing. Where are you at? Where are you in acceptance? Where are you in acknowledgement? What can you do differently? How are we, you know, how are things? What's up? What's happening? How are those macarons looking? I have a different image for part 2, just to kind of give you a little bit of a, ooh, I wonder what she's going to be baking. And let me just say, I haven't made macaron yet, but we did buy almond flour. So my daughter and I are going to make macaron at some point. So perfect. And then our couple of takeaways that we always like to have. There's always opportunity. It's cut off my slide, but remember that it takes time, right? It's a process. So cut yourselves and others some slack. Isolation can be hard on our mental and physical well-being, so reach out to other people for their sake and ours. Acknowledge that this is hard, and I think that that's one of the things, even for those of you who are killing it right now, it's still hard, right? And you're doing an amazing job, and the fact that you are feeling confident and comfortable is amazing. But when you get to a point, if you get to a point that you're like, yeah, I'm tired, I'm kind of done, I need a break, take that. You know, it's okay. And accept that you're not going to be great at it at first. Heather and I were talking about this, and we mentioned it yesterday because we've got a coworker who's coming back from maternity leave. So we've been doing this for 11-ish weeks now, and she's diving in from just being a stay-at-home mom for the last 14 months, and she's kind of like overwhelmed, and she's not even here yet. Her first day is June 8th. And we said to her, for the first 2 weeks, Heather and I were kind of just floundering, right? So it took a while, and now we've had some practice, and we're getting a little bit more comfortable, and we're still learning things, and we're still recognizing that there are boundaries and limits that we need to set. Just because my laptop is on the kitchen table doesn't mean I need to do work at 9:30 at night, right? So we need to recognize those kinds of things. So we're not going to be great at it at first, and that's okay. And finally, appreciate those positives. We live in a little community. There's only like 300 or 400 houses or families. I don't remember. It's small. It's like a little tiny kind of, there's one way in and one way out, and we're surrounded by the ravine and a big busy road. So it's, but there's all the communities that are right close to us. And so we sometimes take a little bit of a longer walk with our dog, and we walk past a house, and we wave. We don't know if they're in the living room, but we wave just in case they're there. And one day they came to the living room, and they're waving and they're blowing kisses. And so I texted them the next time, and I said, hey, we're taking the dog for the big loop. We're going to be by your house about 20 minutes. And she said, we'll keep an eye out for you. And so we went, and they had actually set up a little patio set, and they were sitting there. They had their wine and their pop and their beer and whatever, because Jack is 12, so he wasn't drinking the wine, but the grown-ups were. And we were chatting, and we got to talking about sort of stuff that we were doing. And somehow skateboards came up. And so I bought a skateboard. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but let me just say that I'm probably a couple of decades past where I should be buying my first skateboard, but I bought a skateboard, and I'm learning how to skateboard, and I probably look like a weird old granny on my skateboard, but it is so fun. It is so fun. My daughter is very kind. She says I look okay. But so there's positives to be had in all of this. For those of you who have explored the beauty of sourdough bread, I applaud you. I'm still gonna try my starter. I'm gonna try to make it. Appreciate those and see kind of where we can take this, and hold on to those things as we do move back to business again, even though it's going to be a different way of doing things. So just to remind you of the resources that are available, I don't actually know. I need to find out what the turnaround time is for the family information line people to get back to you. For the SIFMAP line, it's within 24 to 48 hours, depending on where you are and depending on what it is that you're looking for. So really great way to talk to a person, get connected. And if you know of people who maybe don't participate in these, but could benefit from some help, to reach out to them and sort of just share that, text them the number. Our kids, if you've got kids or people who have kids, we sometimes forget about them. The kids that are graduating, I can't imagine how tough that would be for them right now. And even for our little ones that are 11 that are missing recess and June fun times at the park and track and field meets and all those kinds of things, let them know that there's resources available for them too, because the sooner we let them know that it's a strength and not a weakness to ask for help, the better we're doing and the really great good that we're serving them in that moment. So finally, hopefully you can say with some confidence that you learned something, even if it was just a reminder of all of the things that you are already doing well, some things that we need to maybe look at things through a slightly different lens at, and to acknowledge that this is difficult, and the fact that we're learning new things. And we need to be learning new things all the time, right? I think that's one of the things that we sometimes forget, is learning is power. And when we stop learning, we start dying. But it's just such a crazy place to have to do that in. So thank you for that. And then our last poll, which is learning new things, still struggling with being able to put the poll up when I want to have it up there. I had it and now I can't find it. Somewhere here it is. Why can't I find it? Why am I being such a moron? Nope, that's not the one. Hang on. Hang tight. There it is, right in front of my face. Okay. Last one. I'm going to stop sharing, put my big screen on. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to try to remember to either find that YouTube link. I wish that there was, oh, hang on. Maybe I can. If I go into the chat, I used to be the recreation programmer for the City of Calgary's community skateboard and found that all the kids I met love to teach adults how to skateboard. Yes, isn't that the truth? Oh, it's it's okay. No worry, Karenza. It's all good. The BC Crisis Line. Yes, thank you. Yes, skateboarding is awesome. Honestly, I should show you a picture. Hang on. I'm going to show you my skateboard. It's upside down. This is my skateboard. Like, how pretty is that? And the wheels have the same matching thing as the picture on there. So, yeah, super fun. It is pretty, I know. I love it. So yes, I'm going to see if I can. So don't go because we're only at 10:41. So we did pretty good for time. I'm just going to see if I can cut and paste the link into the chat. Probably not, because sometimes I don't want to watch it. I want to copy it. Ooh, there it is. There you go. And Rachel, I will get you that report. So if anybody had, you betcha. So thank you, everybody. It was nice to be here with you today. I need to not run because it makes my hair crazy. I look forward, hopefully, to seeing you in part 2. And if there's anybody that you think might want to listen to part 2, maybe I encourage them to participate, because no worries, all good. I get it. Life happens. Life happens. Yeah, the more the merrier. So thanks, everybody. Have an awesome, what day is it today? Hump day? Just two parts for this one, Vinny. So next week is going to be the kind of the nitty gritty, the concrete things that you can do to deal with all the stuff that we talked about today in terms of the challenges with isolation and what we can do to deal with this stress and stuff of newness and things like that. So there's just 2 parts, which is good because I have another 6-parter that's going on simultaneously, well, not simultaneously, but Tuesdays. It's a 6-parter on Tuesdays. So yeah, that's all that there is. So thanks, everybody. I'm sad nobody got their mics and cameras on, but that's okay. I can live with that. I'm going to be all right. And thank you. If it stays nice outside, I am absolutely going to go for another loop today. Amazingly, how much calf work is required. Can I send the link for part 2? It should be on the registration for this one. So however you registered for this one, it should be in the same place. So it'll say if you want to register for the next one. If not, if you go back to the CAF connection, I can try to send that again. I sort of stuck it, won't show up till the end of the week. Okay, well, it's not going to show up till the end of the week. So if you didn't register for the second part using the link for the first part, then no. Thanks, Heather. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye.